Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be here, and it's great pleasure to know that the tool, the DAG, that have been developed by our clinical team has such a great traction across the globe and on the other side of the globe. So those are the great news. And today we're going to talk about it as a method agnostic free AC implementation tool. And even though I'm representing Tobii Dynavox today, I'm going to be talking in a very general terms of AAC and AC in general. Just a few words about me. My name is Lena. I come originally from Riga, Latvia, a tiny little country next to the Baltic Sea. I work with Tobii Dynavox for a couple of years now. I'm the international trainer in EMEA region, which stretches from Estonia to South Africa, where I train specialists and families and professional communities in general AC and of course in using Tobii Dynavox products. I'm a certified SLP from Latvia, and as well as that, I'm a teacher in Riga University, which is a medical school back at home in Latvia, where I visit every year and I teach a course of AAC. So I'm wearing many hats, so to speak. But today, DAG is our question. And I know from my previous practice working as an AC specialist with the children and young adults with severe motor disability that there is a struggle with creating meaningful goals to reflect the needs of my clients and providing the data-driven measurable means of evaluating their success to knowing where they're leading. And working with the individuals who are using AC, I definitely found myself asking questions like, how can I develop goals and implement my plans for AC users? How can I move forward when AC users have been stuck? They have hit a plateau of a weight for a long time. How do we go forward? How can I figure out a way to monitor progress of AC user? How do I show that progress to someone around me? And definitely, some years ago when I was in my active practice, I thought, what if there was a tool to help guide me through it and to actually answer all those questions in a systemic way? Well, the good news are that that tool exists, and the DAG, if we open the acronym, it is the Dynamic AC Goals Grid, was originally created to build more robust goals and not keeping it stuck in random pieces of AC. We all know that sometimes, we work on access and we work on some one specific part with forgetting parts of it. It was basically an attempt to put together, try to answer the question on how do we get beyond requesting? What else can we do besides requesting? And basically, the DAGG-3 is a tool to help any SLP out there to collaborate with the support team, with the educators, with the family, with the services that are related to it, as they design the intervention plan, as they choose the goals in ANC, and as they measure how they move forward. And today, I'm going to talk really briefly about the history and foundations of DAG. Where does it come from? How did it start? When did it start? What kind of updates have been done to DAG-3? Because it's a new tool or updated tool. I think there's a lot of very interesting updates. How do we implement it? We're going to look at one user case really quickly. And we're also going to look about report writing and a few other things. And then we're going to wrap it up. We have 1 hour. We have a lot of information to cover. Let's roll. As Amy said in the beginning, I'm very happy to be interrupted. So if you have a question, please put it in the chat. I'm going to try to monitor it myself. And Amy also is helping me with it. Meaning that if you have a question that needs to be answered right now, it's about something I'm talking this very moment, I'd love to receive it before. But if this is a very more general question, you would like to ask it in the end, we're going to try to find time for it. So let's move forward to the history and foundations. I know that some of you have been using DAG. I know that it's popular in Australia. There's a lot of specialists who know about it. But for those who don't, let's begin with a brief history. So it started in 2008, And as you can see, over the last 15 years, DAGG has evolved and continued to be updated based on user feedback, current practices, research, anything we could collect. Our clinical team at Tobii Dynavox worked continuously on it. From the first version that was released in 2008, a long time ago, to today. In 2023, in the end of the last year, we have released the updated version. It was originally published as a print-based tool only. From the start, it was a partnership with the Vicki Clarke. She's an owner of the Dynamic Therapy Associates. And together with Tobii Dynavox, Vicki created this material. She's a highly skilled and thoughtful therapist. She's continued to be involved in DAGG-3, and the last version is created in partnership with Vicki Clarke. She's one of the clinicians behind it, and of course, the team of clinicians from Tobii Dynavox. So the original DAGG has quite a clear purposes. We wanted to have the systematic way to assess and reassess individual communication skills, to look at it in the dynamic. We wanted to provide the tools to develop a long-reaching plan for the communicative independence of a person. We would like to encourage successful AAC use across communication competencies. We're going to talk about competencies a bit later today. And support the goal writing for the specialists. So we would like to help all the community that is involved in AAC implementation. And we receive feedback continuously, as you understand, and the feedback on the original DAGG indicated that it was difficult to classify communication ability level, the first part of it. There was not enough support for use. There was no way to track progress. Goals seemed not aligned to the competencies. So in 2014, it was updated. And maintaining the previously stated purposes, we have also added the tools to track the progress and support to use of DAGG. Probably you know about the activities that are connected to DAGG. If we talk about the clinical foundations, and before we get into the updates that have been made to DAGG-3, I would love to make sure that we understand where it comes clinically. Even though it has been updated over the years, those foundations continued being the same. But I think it's important to note what they are. So the original DAGG was organized around communication competency and communication ability levels. And it stayed with us throughout the years. The DAGG-3 still continues to be organized that way. We know that communication competencies were formulated by Janice Light and her team. And she believed that communication competencies are essential to the enhancement of the quality of life of the individuals with the complex communication needs, and it's fundamental of the attainment of the basic human needs, the basic human right, the power of communication, and basic ability to communicate in natural environments is something that we achieve when all four competencies are developed. So there are four main competencies: the linguistic, the operational, the social, and the strategic. We know that in the linguistic, it's our ability to basically use the language, no matter how that language is represented, by symbols, by gestures, or by text, or by spoken word, ability to process language and create language. The operational one, basically ability to maintain and navigate our system device, which is often outsourced to the support team. The social one, I love how Janice Light formulates it in one of her writings, where social is someone knowing when to speak, when not to speak, to whom to speak, and how to speak. That's quite an interesting way to say it. And the strategic one, basically the strategies that allow someone to overcome interruptions in communication. And those four competencies state the base of it. If we think about communication interaction, what are the components of it? We want to initiate the topic. We'd like to maintain a topic. We would like to answer and ask questions. We would like to comment. We would like to repeat something, or we would like to basically repair the communication breakdown when it happens. We need to terminate conversation when it's done. So the purpose for writing goals targeting AAC skills is very similar to writing goals for all other speech and language areas, to increase functional communication across the variety of individuals, contexts, and settings beyond just requesting. In order to do that, individuals need to be proficient across all of the communication competencies, the linguistic, the operational, the social, and the strategic one, and they need linguistic skills for the language produced, operation skills to accurately select the buttons they want to select, social skills to interact with others, and strategic skills for knowing what to do if something is not working the right way. So we understand what are the skills we're going to be teaching. We understand what are the competencies we're trying to develop. We are also trying to figure out what kind of ability levels there are. And we, of course, wouldn't want to put people into the boxes, but it's more for us, for the specialists, to structure our understanding. So basically, communication ability levels, starting from emergent and moving to independent, can be divided into the 5 categories. They are based on the work of Patricia Dowden from the University of Washington. They describe someone's current skills. They don't say anything about someone's ability to develop and where they're going to end up. It's our attempt to understand where someone's understanding and someone's ability to communicate lies today. That's very important. And they're not predictive. They're not to be meant to use to include someone or exclude someone into some form of activity. It's for us to understand where do we start planning our work. Originally, those were only 3 of them: the emergent user, the context-dependent user, and independent user or communicator. But later on, in 2014, there were added 2 additional ones. They're based, they are based on Patricia Dowden's developed work. So a lot of people have indicated that they felt their clients don't fit in those 3 categories. There were 2 more necessary. So emergent transitional and transitional independent have been used to show somebody who's not emergent anymore, who has moved on forward. So we're going through someone's skills and abilities that need to be developed, someone's existing ability levels, and we're moving forward from that. If we would like to describe those users, when we're talking about somebody being emergent, we would think that it's somebody for whom it's very hard to determine how much does individual understand. They might communicate using a very basic things like facial expressions can be very useful for them. Body language, gestures, behavior. They require a lot of help for the communication partner to be successful in the communication. They might show acceptance of something and rejection of something, but they are not always reliable with using, for example, yes or no. That's somebody who's at the emergent communication level. Somebody who is coming into the next level of being emergent transitional, we could say that this person probably is following the simple instructions within some familiar routine, familiar situation. They're understanding very concrete symbols for something that is motivating, something that's of interest for them, for something that's very common that they know very well. They begin to use some clear symbols. It could be objects, photos, any kind of a symbol, actually, in maybe once at a time in the motivating situation. They might develop very emergent literacy skills. They're maybe interested in books, looking at them. And they probably show some interest in social interaction, especially in specific situation or with the people they like a lot. So they start to transition from being emergent. More appears there. When we move towards context dependent, we would expect users from this group to use lower high-tech device effectively, but only in the specific situation. They might use concrete symbols, cookie, dog, piece of clothing, and start to understand the more abstract symbols like help or other. They do develop literacy skills. There might appear interest for the keyboard at this level. They initiate conversations, but probably mostly with the partners they know or in the context that they know well enough. So again, try to think about that. We're not trying to put somebody in the box. We're trying to help ourselves as professionals to understand, how does this person look? How does their day-to-day life and communication look like? Because it will allow us to choose the correct goals for them, the next one. But we will move forward into transitional independent user. They are going towards the independency. The topics range that they can communicate about becomes much broader. They now are communicating not only with unfamiliar partners, they are going out of the context. They are combining two or more symbols to create more complex messages. And they start developing or continue developing the letter sound awareness. Their literacy skills develop. They might be spelling shorter words. They might be knowing some sight words that they recognize. Their social skills are developing. We're moving forward. And then, of course, the independent user. The independent user is somebody who can use both story message and novel language, create novel language. They are proficient in social interaction. They can basically program their device on their own if the access allows them to do that. They don't care if the partner is familiar or unfamiliar. They're able to express themselves successfully. They are independent. And here I would like to point out your attention that none of this is about someone's age, because we imagine someone being independent as being 12 and being very independent communicator and 57, right? It doesn't matter. It's about their level of independence. Or we can think about someone who is recovering from aphasia and they are re-emerging with their language. And it doesn't tie to a time in their life, to their age. It ties to their ability. So I think it's quite an important thing, because very often, especially when we're talking about the people with severe disability, we would think a lot about age, and we would try to a lot compare children, younger children, with their peers of the same age. And if they're not successful in comparison to their peers, very often we won't see the potential. I think one of the strongest advantages of the dynamic tool, and that is one of the dynamic tools, is the fact that we're comparing the person to themselves. Because when we're looking at someone with profound disability, very often it's easy to see the deficits or something the person cannot do. And I don't think it helps them that much. I think what helps them is seeing what they can do right now, today, and what can be our proximal development zone. What is the next step? Where are we going with it? I think it's more useful way, the way that allows us to move forward. So we are going to move past the practice. We are going to move on to the chain of cues on prompting hierarchy. So we have discussed that the tool consists of competency, that the goals that are divided according to those. We have the ability levels, and then we are going into the chain of cues. It basically follows from least to most progression, starting out with a natural cue. It has changed to fit the best practices over the years. We'll talk more about it in coming up slides. And the chain of cues helps to indicate the amount of support someone needs to be successful, and helps to reflect the progress of individuals who might take longer time to meet a goal. If we think back to those questions asked at the beginning of this presentation, one was about how can we show progress of someone? The chain of cues is one way to do that. We want to minimize a dependency of AAC user on their communication partner or on the specialist. So, for example, let's think that we are working on greeting someone, saying hi, where natural cue would be when we enter the room, other people are saying hello, and we say, hey, back to them. That's a natural cue. We have received our natural cue. If we move towards indirect cue, it can be verbal or visual as gestural. For example, in the verbal one, we could say, did you hear what they say? I wonder if you could say something back. And the visual gestural one, we could wave a hand or point to other people, basically inviting the user to communicate. We can go with the direct verbal cue and say, they said hello to you, say hello too. And if there's still no response, then we might just go ahead and model, show how to say hello while we select the appropriate button on their device and basically show it for them to model. Those who use the previous version of DAGG-2, probably remember that it has contained the physical cue. I'm going to talk about it a bit later in case somebody has questions at this point. So if we put all of these foundational parts together, we now have goals organized by competency and the communication ability level. The goals are defined by an intersection of communication ability levels in each area of the competence. There are goals for each ability level and for each competence. And the idea is if we address goals of all 4 competencies across the competencies areas and ensure success and independent communication in the prompting hierarchy. So basically we move from the least assisting the person to most assisting the person. We will facilitate the communicative competence all in all. So we have our goals that are connected to the different competencies. And as you see, the chain of cues is represented here on the right side. And we're seeing with how much support the particular person can achieve that goal. So I can imagine that you would like to know, when we have reviewed or reminded ourselves the foundation where the DAGG comes from, it would be interesting to look at what kind of updates happened. There have been changes in the research, changes in the best practices of AAC. In the last 15 years, there was quite a lot of development. And this development comes also with lots of user feedback. We're trying to understand how people who use AAC reflect on the use of it. So it continued to indicate to us that some positives are in DAGG, a lot of people have appreciated, a lot of professional communities, but there are some challenges that came continuously from different feedback. Specialists pointed the language sometimes is too complicated. Process for use and implementation can be too complicated. It doesn't necessarily include all the current practices. For example, we have added the psychosocial competence that was formulated by Janice Light much later in 2014. We have expanded on the importance of the access skills, because if you look at the previous version of that, you will see that access was not addressed enough. There was not enough of focus on literacy, and all the current research basically suggests that access to literacy is something that allows the maximum independence. And of course, we would like to recognize the best practices that are telling us that the physical assistance should not be used in cueing for language production, because physical assistance is taking away someone's independence. So the purpose of DAGG-3 remains consistent with the previous versions, but it has reflected the current research and the best practices that were not there. It's all the same tool, but better and updated with more current understanding of AAC. So basically, we would like to match those practices with what the newer tool represents. We would like to increase readability, make it easier for people to work with it. We have simplified the activities. It's only in the US version, but I can imagine that in the community in Australia who are working with Australian version of English language, you can still use the activities. I think it would be very useful for you And something that was not necessarily represented before, the space for personal goals, because there are some very individual goals that we cannot anticipate that are unique to the particular user. And we have created the space for those goals as well. So let's have a look at those. First of all, DAGG has been basically completely rewritten to provide clearer language, more accessible to users, both families and the professional community. And on the left side, you see the older version of it. And while it's a great information and have been approved by many specialists, users found it confusing at the times, taking too much time to fill in. So in DAGG-3, we're trying to provide more concise descriptions of the communication ability levels as ways as a case example to identify those easier. We're trying to give ideas. And I think this is something that can be very successfully used in training new specialists. I'm definitely using it in my university program. I think a lot of young specialists coming into the field will benefit from it. We have also simplified goals to make them easier to read, clearer for the users. For example, in the old version, it reads, uses a variety of nouns and categories to include 7 categories with 5 examples in each category. Well, that's a mouthful. But in DAGG-3, have turned into uses object names from common categories appropriately during daily activity. If you would like to put a number on it, always can do that, but we have simplified it. The new goal, as I said before, psychosocial. Janice Light has developed them in 2014 and together with McNaughton, and with the necessity to add those, so psychosocial goals are added in parentheses. The literacy. We recognize the importance of literacy to those using AAC. And some additional literacy goals have been added to each communication ability level under the linguistic competency with specific literacy skills in parentheses. For example, for the context-dependent user, we would add something like consistently responds to comments or questions during shared reading, even if the response is inaccurate, something that represents the interest of a user. The new goals such as access have been added. If access is not an issue for the person, we just mark those goals as not applicable and don't include them in figuring out the process when access is not an issue. For example, somebody is a very proficient touch user, but we know that a lot of people using AC have complex access needs. So we have added them. Example could be like activates and deactivates the pause button during the daily activities. This goal is for people using, for example, the eye gaze and the mouse dwell, or somebody who adjusts the device or their positioning or ask others to do so to achieve a better accuracy. The important things we can include. And as said before, we have new goals in DAGG-3 that are personalized. We cannot possibly address all of the goals for all of the people. And we provide the space in the tool for you to do so. And since you already have the structure, you have the chain of cues, you are trying to figure out at which appropriate cue level this person is at the moment is, you can write those out. Like, for example, if somebody is working with a specific grammatical structure, you can have it here. Or maybe you're working with a Gestalt language processor and you would like to address their Gestalts and you would like to mitigate them, and mitigation of the Gestalts could be one of your goals. I think it's a great place to allow you to think, but provide you with the same structure that you're using for the previous goals. And I said before, the prompting hierarchy have changed. On the left, you see the original cueing hierarchy, which includes physical assistance, and updated chain of cues on the right side, which does not include it. And the current best practices are to avoid moving the person. Because when you're moving someone, you're assuming you know that they want to communicate. So you're basically assuming the communicational intent. And you're kind of assuming that you know what exactly they want to communicate. It removes the opportunity for them to consider what they want to say and figure out where is it located and how to navigate there. It doesn't tell us anything about how they're able to communicate. It's tell us that they're able to follow the physical command. It's about the compliance. You could say that tapping person's hand to remind them that it's their turn. It's not the same. And that might be true, and I personally definitely agree with it. If it's a way to get a person's attention, followed by one of other cues, yes, absolutely. But unfortunately, very often not used that way. Very often we are moving person's hands towards the message that we would like to select. And at the moment, doesn't seem to be practice that is based in the research. And therefore, we don't support it in this tool. We invite you to think together with us. How can we work without the physical assistance and work towards actual independence? So, the pathways for core first, as I know in Australia, a lot of people know about the pathways for core first. I'm going to be talking a bit about it. They have offered a comprehensive activities for each goal in DAGG. However, we have received quite a lot of feedback that they seem overwhelming. They seem to have a lot of information, much too much. And we have created simplified versions of those activities. They have been provided for each goal. Each goal has those simplified activities. We'll have a bit closer look at the activities forward on. The next, I think, important step for us is that we have removed the Tobii Dynavox terms in the goals from the pathways. There was a lot of Tobii Dynavox terms like names of our software, like TD Snap, for example. But we would like DAGG to be device agnostic. DAGG is about AAC, any form of AAC out there. So we have removed all of those terms, and now it can be truly used with any AAC system. Activities are device agnostic, but we do provide the suggestions in which Tobii Dynavox device you could use it and in which way you could use it. However, the DAGG itself is completely device agnostic. I think it's a very important thing for the professional community to understand that it's not about a particular product, any product for that matter. It's about AAC and the basic skills and competencies and goals that we're trying to achieve. So the improved usability is a very important part of DAGG-3. We want people to be more successful. It was accomplished through extensive review as well as testing. There was a lot of research done by our clinical department. The DAGG-2 was reviewed. It was rewritten. There was a first review in early 2002. We have invited professionals, internal and external, to work on it. There was a second review later on done by specialists, again, internally and externally. And together with Vicki Clarke, the original creator of the base of it, in collaboration with her in May 2023, it was finished, and August last year, to the great relief of everyone, it was released. It was released to the public in the form that you have seen me presenting. There's a lot of plans for DAGG-3. I think it's going to be growing and it's going to be developing. I am pretty sure that our clinical team is not letting go of it anytime soon. We'll keep localizing it in other languages. And if you believe that in your region some other language is necessary, please reach out to your Tobii Dynavox local contact. Maybe some language is already happening. I know that German is happening. I know that French is happening. Maybe some other languages that are important for your region also need to happen. So reach out. We will keep updating it. And if you have feedback, we would love to hear it. If you would like to organize the more practical trainings for DAGG use in person or in any other format, please reach out to your local Tobii Dynavox contacts. We can organize that. We have successfully done it in many places where we review a lot of cases. That was about what DAGG is. But let's look on how can we use DAGG and how it should be done. So when you're familiar with the updates, with the foundational pieces, you would like to put it in good use, I hope. There are two versions that exist out there in the world. There is a US version, which has activity for each goal listed as a link. And there's an international one, which does not include activities, because the international one takes into account that the people could live in very different environments. We don't know which language they're speaking, and so on and so forth. So both versions can be localized if you would like to do so. DAGG-3 is writable, so you don't have to print it out. You can click it as a PDF file. That's something you could use. How do you get it? It's a very reasonable question. If you scan the QR code you have right here in front of me, you can go and use it. If you're going to Google DAGG-3, the first option you get is the international version on our global website. The version does not have the activities, as I said before. For the US version, you need to make sure you're on the US website. Take that into consideration. So, as said before, we have simplified the instruction. When you're going to get the DAGG, you're going to get the instructions included. They are part of the document, and they are going to help you to implement it and to maybe answer some questions that I have not answered today. If we move towards using DAGG, we could think about it as a path in a way, and all of us, including people with complex communication needs, must obtain skills. And I'm pretty sure that everyone is obtaining those skills throughout their life. And as discussed previously, the communication ability levels give you a way to identify how someone is communicating currently at this very moment by observing their behaviors. So basically, you want to understand where they are. After that, you want to figure out what kind of strengths they have at the moment, where they are, and how do we identify the target goals based on that. We would like to determine what level of support somebody needs, where they are at the moment, what kind of supports help them now, and where can we move forward. We would like to identify the teaching techniques. What are you going to be using? We would like to use the lessons or the activities to build those skills. If we're using the US version, remember, those activities are available to you. We would like to track the progress. We would like to create reports. We'll know that those reports are necessary to make sure that the person keeps receiving the time with their therapist, to try to show to both professionals that are working with them and very often to the family that investing time and funds in AAC pays back. We want to show progress. It's incredibly important. And of course, we want to review the progress. We are going to look at the case study. We're going to look at Bella, who is an outgoing social little girl with a Down syndrome. She has a visual impairment. She has a hearing impairment. She has been working on some sign language. She loves to engage with people. She has difficulty communicating with people she doesn't know. So not so familiar partner is not very successful communication for her. In addition to everything that she also has some difficulty with accessing buttons appropriately. So she does need a key guard. And Bella has participation goals that include becoming more independent in daily activities that are age appropriate for her. She will be exposed to literacy, learning and other age appropriate learning activities to prepare for the preschool. And Bella will more independently communicate with familiar and unfamiliar listeners using sign, gestures, and AAC together. Remember, multimodal communication for everyone. We would like to identify the current ability level for Bella. I just remind you that there are 5 ability levels, and each level has a description. On the left side here, you have the description of the level. And we would like to figure out where does she land on the spectrum. And since Bella is able to follow some simple direction, has started using some concrete symbols for motivating items, while she fits some characteristics of a context-dependent communicator, because those things kind of look like a context-dependent, she primarily fits the emergent transitional level. And we will mark that here. And here, I really would like you to think about how we're trying not to put her in the box, because somebody could spend a lot of time trying to figure out, is she context dependent or is she emergent transitional? And we have to choose one. No, we don't. We have to describe what aspects of her communication behavior fit some of those levels, and what is the closest way to describe her. And since we always can add text, we can always write and describe Bella and tell what we know about her, we can land her in between them, and we can say exactly that well, she fits something in context dependent. We primarily believe that she's emergent transitional. That's great because we don't have to put a particular box. We will identify the target goals. We will select at least one goal for each competency. We want to develop her across the competencies, starting with linguistic through the operational, social, and strategic. We would love to involve her family as much as we can. And we would like to also stay focused on the long-term goals. We would like to know where she's going. But to do that, it's very important to create basically a starting point for her communication competency. We want to locate the goals. Some of them are offered for you here on the screen, and we match them with the specific competencies. When we have chosen the goals, we would like to understand what level of support is necessary for her. You see it on the right side here with the red is chain of cues. And by using that, we're going to ensure that we're offering the correct amount of support, not too much, not too little. Remember, our goal is independence. And to give somebody independence, we have to give them the right amount of support. Our goal is to teach the individual to participate in communication opportunities with the least amount of support possible. So you may not know the level of support that is needed at first, and you can always go back and mark it after doing it. And if you see that somebody is incredibly successful with the direct cues, maybe you should be working on following indirect cues. Then we would like to go into the identifying the teaching techniques. We would like to recognize the opportunities, basically identify the times during the day when an individual can learn and practice. What are those activities that they are very interested in, that motivate them a lot, that they easily participate in? We would like there to be a meaning. There are, of course, no mistakes in learning to communicate. Every communication is teaching us it. But it's also important to respond to all attempts to communicate, especially when the individual is exploring the AAC system. If individual shows interest towards AAC, we should really jump on that interest and use it as much as we can. So this is something to think about. The positive environment. A positive communication environment is basically a place or the situation where all types of communication are encouraged. And it helps to provide for the person the place and space to, in a multimodal way, to express themselves. We basically focus on the positive outcome in a very supportive relationship. It's interpersonal after all. We have to assume the potential. We have to think that somebody can move forward. We should use, not test someone. I think we as SLPs very often fall in that bit of testing. Can you show me where it is? Find where is the cat? Where is the dog? Where is the apple? And it stops being communication and becomes testing. How do we communicate? How do we respond to all modes of communication? Do we notice that somebody smiled at us? Do we notice that somebody's looking at some object very intensively? Very important. Do we wait enough? Do we provide the expectant pause for somebody to reply to us? Very important things. Of course, I don't think that I have to talk about it too much, but the power of modeling is undeniable. Modeling is the key to acquiring AAC according to modern research. We would like to model keywords instead of every word we say, model the meaning. We would like to model searching, because it's okay for us to not know where the word is in somebody's device or communication book. And by searching it in front of the user, we're modeling them how to find it. We would love, of course, to look for success. And success looks very, very different. I am sometimes a bit upset by the fact that the people who we see using AAC in a promotional video or in a film is somebody who is I sometimes say they're Olympians of alternative communication, you know. They are independent university graduates who are using eye gaze to write books and create sentences. And in minds of a lot of specialists and some families, it lodges that the only success looks like that. And if you're not that, then you're not successful. I think we should think much, much broader, because success may include different things. Maybe somebody's attention to interactions has grown. They were not interested in communication before, and now they are. Maybe they initiate the communication by just bringing the device. Incredible. Maybe their vocabulary got broader, intentionally or not intentionally. Maybe they explored their communication system more. Maybe the interaction became longer. There used to be only one exchange. Now there are 2 or 3 exchanges between you. Great. Maybe we can see that somebody gains more enjoyment of the interactions. They laugh and smile and otherwise show that they enjoy the process. Maybe there's some level in the independence. So that is something that we should look at. Those are the techniques. I want to say those techniques are somewhat universal. And of course, they can change based on the user, their age, and their ability level. But we should look at all of them in one form or another. And from here, we would like to build her skills with the activities. And as I said, in the US English version, the goal has an activity linked to it to give you ideas how to target the goal. And they are different depending on the goal, of course. They may include things such as the materials and suggestions, how to prepare for the activity, the tips for success, how do you get there, the detailed steps for each activity, some supplemental activities, what can we do additionally, how to measure a success. We just talked that measuring a success can be a hard thing. And it also, like previously, includes the parent letter for connecting to home or to school. You can find all those activities linked. So when you've done that, you would like to fill out the implementation planning and goals progress report. You would like to see what are the goals you have chosen on the left side. You would like to describe what kind of activities and materials are going to be needed, how you're basically going to do that, what kind of competency area you're targeting. You're also slightly reminding yourself you want to be across all the competencies. What kind of prompt you're going to be using. What is your criteria for deciding that the goal has been achieved? And of course, with familiar or unfamiliar partner, we know that it is a very important thing. So we are going to review the progress when we fill out the summary on the first page of the document. We can review it monthly, bi-weekly, however we decide to do that. And if we would like to calculate the percentage, we would like to divide the number of goals and the ability level and specific competency level they have met, for example, emergent linguistic goals, to the total number of goals in that specific area. We don't count the goals that are not appropriate. For example, eye gaze access goals if somebody is not using the eye gaze. Remember that you're going to mark some goals as not applicable. If the goal is not applicable for the particular person, we exclude them from it. If you would like to count the percentages, you are able to do so. Okay, I see we're moving towards the time. And I would like to add a bit about the growth and about the development. I want to stress that it can be done in different ways. Basically, your ultimate goal, your purpose in completing this intervention planning is to provide a framework of communication strategies which will cover somebody's needs. And the more needs are covered, the closer you are to your goals. And we can measure that growth in a very different way. Somebody does not need to master each goal. Somebody does not have to get 80% on each goal you're working towards. So maybe you're going to be moving from one communication ability to other, nicely from the emergent into independent. That's a possibility. But there are different ways to go about it. Maybe they are moving into more communication competencies. Maybe they're in the same level, but they acquire more skills. Or maybe just the prompt that is needed is being reduced. That's also a way to show growth. So we should really try not to focus on one way of growing. We can do it in a very different way. And later on, we will put it all together in the report. There are some ideas. For example, Vicki suggests that we give a brief description of DAGG-3 if the report is for someone who does not know what DAGG-3 is. For different specialists, school, parents, you can include it in your report. Besides that, you would like to reason why DAGG-3 have been used, you can give that information in a description. Oh, again, something strange is happening with my computer. But I'm trying to show you that you would like to show somebody's ability communication level. You can include that one as well. That's very strange. Okay, let's try again. And you want to summarize each area, the competencies in which you see the person right now, the behaviors you observe, and the goals you're working towards. And I'd love to finish it all with a quote that is very close to me, that I don't want an AAC device to be a piano or to be used like a piano at certain times for only specific occasions and perhaps a recital for friends or families on a special occasion. I want the child to use their communication device and augmentative strategies all day in every situation with familiar and unfamiliar people, by Kinger 2007. I really, really connect to this because unfortunately the truth is that I see way too many cases when somebody's device is standing on a shelf as a decoration and is being used only in the SLP's office. And I don't think it's the way it should go. And I think by having those very specific goals, we give very specific steps to family and professionals, allowing people to move forward. So AAC all day, every day. And I think this is something I'm happy to stand before. Let's continue this conversation. If you have any form of questions, feel free to reach out to me or your local Tobii Dynavox specialist. I'm sure they will be able to help you in any form. I'm going to do the following. While we have the question time, I'm going to leave this QR code on the screen. So if somebody would like to open it, and I see that there in Q&A, some question has rolled in. Second part of it from Vicki Clarke. Yes, absolutely. You also can see it in the document itself. I'm going to give a few minutes with the QR code if somebody wants to scan the QR code, and then I'm going to give you the quote from Vicki. But also that information can be found in the document itself when you're going to use this QR code or go to the website and download it. All that information is going to be available there. You can absolutely use it from there. So I gave a few minutes with the QR code, and I'm sure that Amy is going to send an update email to everyone. In that update email, she's going to mention the link that allows you to download it for you. Okay, I hope that everybody who wanted to get the QR code were able to do so. And I'm going to give you the code from Vicki. This is very strange. My computer is behaving in a funny way. Because I see it on my screen, but I see it's not being sent around. Oh, here it is. So let me see. Okay. As I said, the link is going to be sent out. And I can share some parts of the slides, not all of them. I will provide the limited version that can be shared. I won't be able to provide all of the slides. However, what I strongly recommend you to do is download the document itself, because the instructions have very detailed